Hey, everybody, it's Anthony Brockton, your main man on the one and twos. I got a pretty lady on the channel. Ooh, and she's very knowledgeable about what she gonna talk about because it happened in her family. She's got a storied history of highly educated and successful folk dating back many generations. Oh, this is what I do at Strong Inspirations. I give it to you. I get the people to come on here. Let me tell you something. Me and this lady has worked on this for a while. And every time I saw her, I would beg her, come on my show, please. I want the people around the world to hear this type of story. And eventually here we are, as you notice, my friends. I don't play with you. I get them on there. I tell them, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. I do this via Zoom. That's how I can do it around the world. And if a lady, a guy want to do it with their cell phone, let's do it. Because you got to hear this. I don't care how it works. So if anything happens, just let me know anybody. But not going to happen because it's in divine order for y'all to hear this story. This is what I do. Y'all see, I got over 500 videos up on my show. Good stuff, too. There's no question. You know, people who found out their great grandfather was almost lynched. Watch that video. People who worked for, how about this one out of Atlanta? Herman Russell, one of the most wealthy black men in America of his day, a construction firm that is still operating. Watch that video. How about that one about the guy out of Birmingham, Alabama, A.G. Gaston? Have you heard of him? I got a
Yeah,
guy on the show who talks about what A.G. did. I got a guy on the show who's a professor at Georgetown, I believe it was. He's probably still there, older gentleman, who he was a civil rights lawyer. He said, I carried a gun in my briefcase in case some of them racists wanted some trouble. I got, oh, it's all over. I got a lady who's another professor out of Georgetown. Her family moved to Liberia back in those days when they said, come to Liberia and be free. I'm not playing with you, my brothers and sisters. And the train has left the station. So hit the subscribe button. It's free. I do this because this has become my ministry to tell you through the people who come on these stories from all over the world, from Africa and Australia and London, England, and so on and so Nova Scotia, Canada, Toronto, Canada, Jamaica. This is I'm serious about this. And so hit that subscribe button, hit the like button on this video. You're gonna love it. She got beautiful personality too. It's all gonna come through. And then hit the notifications bell for when the videos come up. You get a ding, a shock, your lights flicker, but there is some way for you to know there is new content on Strong Inspirations and tell somebody about us. Don't keep it to yourself, my friends. Don't do that. That's not right. Let it flow. You teachers in them classrooms, share this with your students. Sit there and watch 30 minutes of it. You can move the cursor wherever you want to get to the point that you want them to know. All right, do that, my friends. I'm going fast, just only in this regard. I want her to come on soon. I got a movie out, everybody. It's called businessintheblack.net. It is shown in over 40 cities across America, Toronto, Canada, and London, England, about the rise of black business in America. It's streaming on Amazon. I wrote a book that is America's #1 black business history book titled Black Business Book. Get you a copy of that. It's on Amazon, but if you go to my website, businessintheblack.net, you get it autographed. I got a children's book, same concept as the other book, but you know, it don't even have the word slavery in it for them states that don't want their feelings hurt. How about that? That's what they tell us. They hurt us, but they don't want theirs hurt. All this is on my website, businessintheblack.net. You know, I'm speaking across the country. I was in Galveston, Texas for Juneteenth. I tore them up too. I told them some stuff they had not heard. Now, you hear me use this term strong a lot. Strong is my favorite word. In my world, strong stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And that is my introduction to the strong soul sister on the show today. Come on, ma'am. Introduce yourself. Let's get it on.
Hello, everybody. I'm Deborah Geraldine Bledsoe Ford.
Ms. Ford, thank you for being on here. I am excited, as you can tell. I
I can
got to
tell.
ask a couple questions about you. Let my audience get to know you. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Detroit, Michigan.
Where's your, did you grow up in a all black neighborhood? Was there some white people? Did you know any white people growing up?
uh, yes, yes to both. I grew up in a white, mixed, integrated neighborhood and black as well. I am the daughter, let me just say, I'm the daughter of Geraldine Bledsoe Ford and Leonard Ford. At that time, my mother was a lawyer when I was born. My father was a world champion football player with the Cleveland Browns. In 1951, he was playing with the Browns. They were world champs. So my mother was from Detroit. So her parents lived on the North End. So she grew up on the North End. Prior to that, they were on the Lower East Side, but most of her life she was on the North End, 435 King Street. So that was my family home. That was when I was born. That was still a black neighborhood.
Okay. How did you know white people, though? You said yes to that part.
Because my father wanted to own real estate. After he retired, his plan was to have like a real estate empire. So he bought a four-family flat on Calvert Street, 1686 Calvert, between Woodrow Wilson and 12th. At the time I was born, that was a integrated neighborhood. So the white people were still there. So that's why I said yes to both. There were still white children in my elementary school, Doty, and we had white neighbors.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
How about this? Let's go back a little further. In your family, do you know where the slavery is in the South? Is there some of that note
Do I know what?
where the slavery, enslavement?
You mean in my family?
Yes.
Well, my grandfather is from Harold Bledsoe's from Marshall, Texas. His father, this is what I was supposed to come on before and give this story. His father was William Felga Bledsoe, and he was a businessman. He owned a lot of real estate in Marshall, Texas, and he also was an educator and one of the founders of Bishop College. He had three sons. My grandfather, Harold Bledsoe, was a lawyer. Another son, Ovid Bledsoe, who became a doctor who went to Meharry, and another son, Gerald died. Another one, Felga, became a principal in Marshall, Texas. Gerald fell off of a horse. Well, my that would be my great grandfather's parents were slaves. So if that's what you're asking me, yes. But they were freedmen. They were freedmen. But this was in Texas. My grandmother, my grandfather's wife, was born in North Carolina. I'm not as clear on the slavery part of her history because she and her mother and sisters left North Carolina and migrated to Freehold, New Jersey when she was 7 years old. She was born in 1900. Well, we had a joke. She said she was born in 1900. My grandfather said she was born in 1896. But at any rate, in that timeline, her family left the South and went to Freehold. So I'm mostly familiar with her history after Freehold, New Jersey, when she was 7 years old. And my father's family, I'm very familiar with their history. That's Leonard Ford. His parents are from Virginia. His grandmother, excuse me, it's my grandmother, is from Lynchburg, Virginia. Her husband was from Manassas, Virginia. They met in high school at 16 and 18, eloped and went to Washington, D.C. A family plot exists there with their parents and grandparents. Prior to that, yes, there was slavery in that family in Virginia.
Okay. Let me ask you this, and I mean no disrespect. So you saying that they were enslaved? Did somebody have relationship with one of your grandparents? I'm talking about the enslaver.
Well,
Do
my
you know that?
grandmother, a picture of my grandmother, the one from North Carolina, she's around 5 shades lighter than I am, and she had really long hair, and she had Nordic features. So there were. I know she didn't look like her sisters. I know when I was 7 years old, her sisters came to the door, and
Really?
they looked black. Yeah, I was stunned. Actually, I was stunned. As a child, I could see that. And she just hugged him. She cried. She was so happy to see him. And I could see they looked so different. I couldn't believe it. But at no stage you wouldn't ask questions like that. So, in my opinion, I later heard rumors that her father was Caucasian. Caucasian? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
the one in North Carolina. In my father's family, it was a little more known. I have pictures of my great grandparents, all of them really, except not my grandmother, maternal grandmother's parents, but my paternal grandparents. Yeah, I got pictures of each of their parents. Each of them had a very light parent and a dark parent. That's my father's family. And my mother's family, her father, he was dark skinned and his wife was brown skinned woman. So I'm not
Is
as
it?
sure about it, miscegenation
Yeah.
in the Bledsoe family. I'm positive about it in the Ford family and my mother's mother. I'm positive. Yes.
Is there something to the dynamic of being lighter complected? Is there an advantage? Did they? You think they had an advantage in that regard?
Yes. Um, I think then or now or
Well, let's
forevermore.
go with then for sure.
Yes. uh, uh, white, bright, damn near white. Yes. That's a well known saying. I think in the Black community that's what men preferred to marry. I think if you look at um, people who finished college, they tended to be lighter. Then, and oftentimes, I think that that may have been a product of some of them being the children and offspring of slave owners, and
Right,
that they were quietly helping their offspring under the table.
right,
I could be in elementary school. I shoot when I was in elementary school. The lights I was not dark, but I wasn't
right,
really light. Not
right.
not no, I
Yeah,
wasn't.
right,
I wasn't yellow with real long hair and blue or
right.
hazel. Those kids were preferred by the teachers. The boys liked them more. Um, People tried to be their friends more. Cassandra Robinson
Well, okay.
comes to mind right at this moment in the fourth grade. She was a
Yeah,
nice girl. So
sure.
yeah, of course there was an advantage. And look at who was working. For example, my mother's sister. My mother's sister was very light. She was beautiful too, and she was nice. She had a job at Hudson's working that elevator. Why did you have to be light to work an elevator unless they got preferential treatment, right?
Right.
Because dealing with the public.
Yeah,
Why did you like to be a receptionist in off certain offices and get preferential treatment because you were dealing with the public? So
right. Yeah,
uh, there's studies that show that nice looking defendants were generally, I guess, a crossover between nicer looking and light get convicted less.
yeah,
Uh, Convict kids in classes have higher grades that were light, right?
yeah,
For years, this was documented.
yeah.
So there
That's
was an
right.
yeah, I think there was an advantage.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Okay.
could get that with the family. I know just sitting there watching in the room who was getting asked to dance. I mean, you didn't have to be a genius to see who was getting asked to dance more than you, right?
Yeah,
Who
yeah,
was getting, who was homecoming queen down there
yeah.
in the I mean, you didn't have to be a genius to look at the yearbooks and see what
Yeah,
they looked.
that's right. Let me ask you this question. So now you mentioned that your great grandfather uh he owned business, he owned property.
Yeah, he did.
How did he get the property? How did he do you remember how he got started? Yeah, what was the yeah,
That's a very good question. All I know is he worked manual type jobs and saved his money. He didn't inherit it. He just saved his money and slowly bought property for years and years and years and years. Put it in a trust too. My grandfather put it in a trust. It's documented. It's documented. It stayed in the. It's still in the family. Okay, some
Oh,
of it's the family.
and this is where? Where was it? Where was the land that you said?
Marshall, Texas.
Really? So
Yes,
so he did that. So then he is smart enough to have his kids go to school, go to college.
yes. He was smart too, though. He went to college. He finished at Bishop. He helped found it and then finished there.
Is there historical markers in his honor?
Well, there's a street named after him. I know that.
Oh, really?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
can I tell you this story? It was
Please.
Byron Jackson. I was up there at the University of Michigan in a study group in political science. We were doing statistics, okay? Byron was from Marshall. So we were like on a break. We were all tired. Statistics is hard. So we just got to talking. So I said, "Oh, Byron, you're from Marshall. My family's from there." And when he heard my name and he connected it with my great grandfather, I will never forget this as long as I live. He started crying. He started crying because he told me how highly regarded and respected the family was and that there was a street named after him. And he just couldn't believe that I was related to them.
Oh man. Is there
Yeah.
is there some strife that because a lot of times what happens is, you know, the highly respected guy, the KKK and other races come after him saying, "I want your land." They lynch him. Is there, if I may ask, is there a story like that?
No, not that I'm aware of. No, I'm not sure why he escaped that. I think I would have heard it, but
Yeah.
no, it could be, my grandfather made everything very legal and technical for him once he finished law school too, because he's the one that did that trust. So, I mean, that's one answer. Maybe they
Yeah.
know. I don't, that's my answer.
Yeah. You know. So where did he go to law school?
My grandfather, there's a
Yeah.
difference between my great grandfather and my grandfather,
Yeah.
right?
Your grandfather. Right.
So he went to Howard. And speaking, what you're trying to ask, uh, did my great grandfather have some challenge to his land? I don't know, that none that I know of.
Right.
But my own grandfather, Harold Bledsoe, he couldn't stand all that discrimination and all those laws. So here's a story: he would stand up to white people about those laws and challenge them, and they got so afraid because he felt he was equal that he was going to get killed. He got sent to boarding school when he was 14 so they could get him out of there. They sent him to boarding school in Kansas. And things he saw, my grandfather, Harold Bledsoe, in Texas, he saw so many atrocities and so many inequities that my grandmother explained. One day he was in court, he saw a man get railroaded when he was 10, and that's when he made his decision. He was going to be a lawyer to help right those wrongs. But anyway, at 14, he got sent to boarding school, finished, and then graduated. And then after that, he went to Howard for undergrad. And then he went to Howard for law school. During his second year of law school, first or second, but I believe it was second, he came to Michigan to work for a lawyer. Back then, you could be an apprentice to a lawyer and you didn't have to take the bar. So he came here to be an apprentice to a lawyer because of the auto industry. You know, it was a vibrant place for a young lawyer to start a business. He liked Detroit, my grandfather, so much, and he saw so much promise and future. He then enrolled at the University of Detroit Law School. He did not graduate from Howard. And he graduated from the University of Detroit Law School in 25. And you can go at University of Detroit Law School, right where they have all the pictures of various graduating classes. He's sitting right there with the class.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It goes way back.
Mm-hmm.
As a result of that, that growing up under those conditions, did they have money? Were they able to be a little more wealthy? Was there like going back to your great grandfather in Texas? Did he have a big house somewhere in the neighborhood, or did you know what I mean? How did he live?
Okay. They weren't ostentatious and they didn't as they would say, live high off the hog. However, I am highly aware of the fact that my mother used to always tell me, her grandfather, which would be my great grandfather, said, if you can't afford to pay cash for whatever it is you have, you can't afford it. He did have a Cadillac, and from everything I've heard, he paid cash for his Cadillac. So he had money because that's what, or uh, trinkets. That was his trinket. But they didn't spend a ton of money on clothes. They did. Mm-hmm. But like, it didn't all go to that. It went back into property, it went into education, and it went into savings. For Black people, of course, they live well, but compared to other Blacks, but not real high off the hog. Yeah. And my own grandfather was the same way. They lived on the North End. They had a really good house, but it wasn't totally decked out, which is one thing I had always wished they would do. And I decided one day when I got a house, I'd have it decked out. And that's just what I did.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Okay, so during that time, is there a class of other Blacks that are successful like him that you've heard of, people that he ran around with, that like the Booker T. Washington know him and that kind of thing?
In my opinion, they all knew who they were, each other were. Yes, they all knew who they were. My grandfather met my grandmother, Howard, Geraldine Bledsoe. Maybe Geraldine Bledsoe. She graduated valedictorian at Howard.
Wow.
And yeah, she's in the Women's Hall of Fame. She's history too. That's the one that migrated from North Carolina to Freehold. Well, right. I let this story out. Well, she didn't talk that much about, those people didn't talk a lot about discrimination and atrocities. Some did, but a whole lot didn't. They tried to leave that stuff behind and move forward, right? Make change here when they got here. One thing, though, my grandmother talked about a lot, it would come up. She was supposed to be valedictorian in her high school, and they took it from her and gave it to the principal's daughter. They made two. You know how they make two in a new category and all that? Yeah. But in the category, she didn't get to give the speech, the valedictorian speech.
Right.
She got knowledge as a valedictorian, but it was sort of like the colored valedictorian.
Yeah.
But at Howard, she really was the valedictorian. So in my opinion, all of them, she was a major AKA. That means she was bachelor's and a couple times. Here in Detroit, she was always extremely active in that. The NAACP, the Urban League, through all those organizations, yes, they all knew each other. I knew who they were. Even I knew who they were. Yes, they all knew. Through that Howard connection, that Fisk, that Meharry connection. I mean, there were other Black schools, but those were some of the major ones.
Yeah, right.
They intermarried, they interdated, they spent summers and camps together, and they were related by marriage.
Right.
Or, yes, it was a small, close network. They all knew each other.
Well, let me ask you this. So, everybody, y'all hear what we're talking about this from this perspective. Did they go to Idlewild? Was there vacation homes? That kind of thing?
Yes, that existed, but my people didn't do that. I think I'm not saying they were more serious than most, but they probably were. Because they spent so much time that, like, for example, my grandmother, she wasn't just a member of the NAACP, she was an office holder. She wasn't just a member of the Urban League, she was an office holder, right? Anything that she was a member of, she was an actual office holder, a president. Usually was president. Whatever it was, she was president. My grandfather, he was the first assistant attorney general in Michigan. He was the first, I think you do know this, Black man in the country to vote, be on the commission to vote for president, right? So whatever he did, they were like for real pioneers and trailblazers. That he was in the Constitutional Convention in 1963. He helped write the Constitution in Michigan. So Yeah. So there ain't a lot of time for all that Idlewild stuff in the frats. She was active, but he was not. He was cute. He was not active. So, but in politics, yeah, he was active. In labor movement, yeah, they were active. They were out on the lines. They were picketing. I mean, in the 20s and 30s, getting shot at and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. That's why I said I think they were a little more serious. Well, I know it. I was
Yeah.
either I know,
Yeah.
and then later on I lived with them, and they hadn't really changed.
Yeah. Well, what is that? How does this? Uh, how do other blacks respond to people like that though? Is and you we talked about it from the light skin, dark skin, but from the those who let's say have and those who don't. There's a dynamic there that has to be understood.
Well, I think yes, that dynamic exists in our situation. I think we were pretty much known for trying to be right and trying to be fair and trying to embrace all. My grandfather, they had a retirement dinner for him at the Rooster Tail. I was 17. I'd never seen anything like it. I saw people stand up. They just started. It just started itself. That wasn't on the program. And people started giving him tributes about things he had done, giving free legal work, giving them easy payments
Yeah.
for their payment plans,
Right.
all the various cases he won. He won a case against the DRS. It got $100,000 too, it from a jury, and the judge took it from him. I asked my mother why. She said because he was prejudiced, he was jealous, and he never did get paid that. And then one day, I did a settlement. After I started practicing law, I got $100,000, and I took the check. It's in my house right now, and I put it under his picture. And the newspaper
Wow.
that showed they deprived him of it, I put it under his picture in that article to let him know I got it and they didn't like steal it from me. But they were so fair in terms of trying to give back and help people get jobs and help them get ahead politically through voting that I don't think they got tagged that much in terms of that color stuff.
Yeah.
It may be listed somewhere, but that wasn't their thing. Did it exist and was I aware of
Yeah.
degrees of color and marriage and dating and uh, preference and stuff? Yes, of course. I think that exists today, but I think it's also a matter of how you carry yourself and treat people as to how harshly you're judged by it.
Yeah. That's so true. Um. And so they did this, but it all started from your great grandfather,
My great grandfather,
your
yes.
great grandfather.
Yes, my great, he's the one that was in slavery. I didn't know him,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
but I knew of him. I did know of him. I know that they said once they got freed, they were freedmen, that they were going to make sure that their children had a good life. And they started setting it up by the
Wow.
example.
Yeah. What?
And then
What? Go ahead.
let me tell you, my grandfather has just an astounding family, actually. My grandfather, not my great grandfather, but it's the same family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like my grandfather's cousin, Jules Bledsoe. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No.
Yeah, you look him up. He's online. He was the first black in Showboat. He's from Marshall. He has strong musical well, I don't want to say genes, but uh music runs heavily in his family. Heavily. His niece was a concert pianist to the extent you could be as a black female, right? She did the
Yeah.
whole as much of the circuit as she could. Mm-hmm. She
Yeah.
was a trained concert pianist.
Yeah.
But he has a lot of doctors and lawyers, and my grandfather does in his family. Lots.
Well, let me ask you this then. This first question came. Is that pressure on you growing up?
Without a doubt. At first, when you're growing up, you're just used to it. And that's just the family you were born into, right? So, and then there are, people tend to pick friends like them. So most of their friends they had met from college. So their friends were a lot like them. So it wasn't unusual for me. My own parents went to Michigan. So a lot of their friends were from Michigan, or maybe they had gone to Howard first or Howard later, etc. So I was used to it. But once you start getting a little older and you're expected to be something yourself, heck yeah. It's unbearable pressure.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, and the reason why I asked that because I interviewed Madam C.J. Walker's great granddaughter. She and her and other people like Booker T. Washington, and that's on another level, so to speak. But nonetheless, they were like, man, I didn't want to even let nobody know that was my family.
I don't feel it's on another level for this reason. That I just told you about my mother's family. My father's in the Football Hall of Fame. So he was famous around
Yeah,
the whole
yeah, yeah,
country. That's my blood father. I had it from everywhere.
yeah,
His sister is in the Hall of Fame in DC, and his brother was president of UDC in Washington. He was an architect too. So it
yeah.
was,
That's true. Well, you're right.
my father was famous.
Right, right,
He's still famous. So,
right, right,
and his story is, and plus I'm directly related to him. I'm not their grandchild or great
right,
grand,
right, right,
but I am the child who
right,
ate dinner with them,
right.
pig screens, watched TV, got scolded, got spanked, got loved. That's a
Yeah,
different.
yeah. No, that's true. I'm sorry. I mean, no. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I'm
You're right.
correcting it through my perspective because I think it brought much more pressure. That's just my perspective, whether it did or didn't. But it was from
Yeah,
many more people. It wasn't just from one person. It was from everybody that was directly related to me on both sides, and that is pressure. It's just pressure. I don't know that they're trying to put it on you. It's almost worse. They just were. It's how people say you can be anything you want to be. God's got you and this and that. These people actually were anything that they wanted to be. It's just different. They actually were. They were in living skin anything that they had dreamt to be. But anyway, my father, now here's his story. It's an interesting story. When he was maybe 10, well, from birth, people are born with things. They don't just go decide to be a basketball player, football player, and practice, and there they are. In the NFL, people are born with these skills and various traits that make them highly adaptable. So he had excelled in sports and everything. So by junior high, he was doing track, baseball, basketball, football. By high school, he was captain of the football team, basketball, and track. And he was a class president. Now, with all that going for him, he could not get into a Big Ten school. He wanted to play for a Big Ten school, but he couldn't. They didn't recruit blacks then. So he went to Morgan State. He still wanted to play for a Big Ten, wanted to play in the Rose Bowl. And what he did is he wrote all the Big Ten in the country, and Michigan answered. And so he just tried out. He left his home, his girlfriend, his parents, his brother and his sister, his aunts that lived across the street. This is true. I mean, they all lived down the street, up the street.
right, right,
His best friend Bobby, I forgot his last name, but Bobby, he left them,
right.
tried and made it. Okay. Then he ended up playing in the Big Ten. They couldn't even travel on the road together. They couldn't live in the dorm in Michigan. They had to live in a small house over on Catherine, that street that was black owned. But at any rate, he did make it, right? Now he's the top player in Michigan. He can't get recruited by the NFL. So he goes and plays for a team in the Los Angeles Dons, owned by Don Amici in California. That team folded, and he got noticed. I looked this up. That team played the Cleveland Browns, and he got noticed when he played against the Browns. Then, when the Los Angeles Dons folded, Paul Brown hired him because I think he saw where Black athletes could help him because he had two at the time. And then my father became the third one, I think in 1951. That's how he cracked that NFL. He wasn't, he wasn't recruited. He wasn't recruited. And his best friend, Bob Mann, played for the Lions. His best friend from U of M, same, a similar story. Similar story.
Yeah.
Bob Mann get contracts, endorsements and contracts. And then he created a lot of stink because the Black athletes couldn't get it. He ended up getting blackballed and traded. And then eventually he got with the with the Green Bay Packers. But it was nothing like it is now. And to say that that isn't a lot of pressure, that was the point of someone that did all that to achieve his goal and then achieved it and then got in the Hall of Fame too. Yeah, that was a lot of pressure.
I can't imagine. Well, okay, how does somebody feel so strongly towards something? And the reason why, and what I'm asking is, there are a lot of people who want something out of life and don't go get it. How do you go get it? What will you tell somebody? Given all of what you saw growing up, when you saw your parents, you saw your mother, whatever. What's the answer to go get it?
I answer that. I left out. This is what I was trying to say. My grandfather was the first Black man to be on the electoral college in the country. That's what I was really trying to say. Yeah. And that's because he saw how much power there was in that position. Still is. They're talking about it every day now, right? Michigan's a state. Somehow he figured out in the 30s, Michigan was a swing state, and that if he got on there, he could have a lot of access and input. And this is why I'm saying they got past that light skin, dark skin stuff to a large extent because they were truly helping people and not just trying to get, if he helped you, then you got to give him $10 or $50.
Right.
Give him a bottle of whiskey. They were actually helping because they wanted, right? And that gives you, you know what I realized? That actually gives you power. I don't think they were trying to get power, but it does give you power because people are so grateful to you.
There you go.
Genuinely trying to help them move up. So now in answer to how does somebody get from you could be anything, you could do whatever you want. When I would go to class, when I was on the bench, when I would go to classes to talk to children, and the teachers would say, all of you are gifted, all of you are beautiful, all of you this. Guess what I started saying? I said, that's not true. I said, because if that's true, what is actual beauty or what is actual giftedness? That means nobody's gifted or everybody's a gift. So if everybody's a gift, that's average. Right?
Yeah, I got you.
So they didn't like me saying it, but it is true. So here's what I would say. This is something I figured out over years. I was on the bench, I think, by the time I pieced it together because I had seen so many people have so many horrible things happen to them. And some people, bad things didn't happen to them. And they would be confronted with the same situation. That might mean foster care. Why does one person do well in foster care and have a successful life? The other one just continues to go from pillar to post and on and on. This is what I told the people on the bench one day. I'd seen something horrible. I really don't remember. That's what I said. I said, you know something? I said, you guys think what makes me different is because I have this law degree and I'm sitting up here on the bench in this role. I said, now maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'm telling you how I feel. I said, that's not what made me so different from all of you. This is what made me different. I had parents who acknowledged me. First of all, they claimed me at the hospital bed. They said, that's my child. That's my child. Do you understand how much that separates you right there?
Okay.
Second thing, I had two sets of grandparents, paternal, maternal. They were at the hospital bed saying, this is my grandchild. We're going to give her the best. We're going to do our best to make her the best. Now that separated me for real.
I got you.
And they actually did it. I spent the summers in DC, and here in Michigan, I lived with my grandparents for a while, for about 4 years. And the other times they were 10 minutes away. My mother's brother and sister, my uncle lived downstairs. My aunt lived 6 blocks away. And then my father's brother and sister were in DC. I was seeing them in the summers. They were talking to me. They were schooling me. They were advising me. They were telling me what went right and wrong in their lives, all about their family histories. And so I'm telling this to the people on the bench. I'm saying that's what made me different. It wasn't the money. It wasn't the prestige. I mean, it helped probably, but really made it different. I had 2 separate families that loved me to death, gave me their best advice. And guess what else they did? And did this for my father and my mother. Each had this. Think about this. You have a little boy in the 30s, 1930s, talking about, I want to be a football player. His parents are going, okay. Then they actually let him do it. When he was 14 years old, he practiced behind where the Redskins practiced. It was just a happenstance. One day, my uncle says, my father told him, oh, I can beat them. He's 14. He said, I can beat them. I'm better than they are. And so my uncle said, he told him, his brother, oh man, get out of here. But his parents encouraged him and they supported that. And they let him do it. They didn't just talk the talk, they walked the walk. They held it. They let him go to Ann Arbor, go for his dream, walk away from them to a strange city. My grandmother cooked chicken dinners for a year and gave him, I have records of it. She kept records of $400 to go up there and help him stay, get on the train so he didn't have to come back. Who's doing that to be a football player instead of just go work in the plant or go be a doctor or a lawyer? My mother's parents, listen to this story. You want to know what's different? When she was 5, she was born in 26. That's about 1931. She said she wanted to be a lawyer. They said, okay, a girl, and they made good on it, right?
Oh, let me stop you there. Because what you're saying is women couldn't be lawyers for the most part.
No. That just came about when they passed all these title this and title that and civil rights this and that. No. When I was in law school, there weren't a whole lot. They were there, but she finished in 51. But what I'm trying to tell you, in 31, she said she was going to do it, and they supported her. That's what made us different. You want to do it? You got our love, our support, our encouragement, our advice, our follow through, our observation, our wisdom. You got it. And we got it. That's what I think made a difference. And, oh yeah, we exchanged ideas a lot. We shared thoughts. It wasn't like people keeping records. Well, you tell this or you know that. No, everybody was pooling their knowledge. And it was almost like, if you really think about it, like a Black think tank. Because everybody was pretty smart. So they're sharing all their ideas freely. In-laws too, at family dinners, barbecues, cookouts, on the phone, wherever they were, just exchanging. That stuff takes a family up. All that knowledge and support, that's what I think. So I told all this to the bench, to the people sitting there in the court that day. I said, what you all need to do, just support your family and love your family. Whoever is the weak one, catch their slack. Don't worry about all this community stuff, where you got to be seen in the paper and giving back to the community. Give to your own family, and the community won't need all that because you will have caught the community because you caught the weak link in your family. Well, that's what I see it. They hate. Oh, they didn't mess with me. I think they clapped that day, actually.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And all this stemmed from for the most part, great-great-grandfather being the way he was, and great-great-grandmother and stuff like that.
And on the other side, too. I had it on both sides, yes. Yes, it did. They all were kind of the same, yes. They all were encouraging the aunts and uncles, encouraging each other, their nieces and nephews, living near each other, yeah. It wasn't just like, quote, neighbors. It was actual encouraging their own family members. spending time at the birthday parties, not being too busy to listen. You know, a kid will show you their picture and not just like, oh, that's cute, but oh, listen to this, listen to this. When I got married, it was in 1992. I got a picture here. There's about 16 people that came up here from Washington, D.C. Somebody told me he had never seen anything like it. And when I got sworn in as judge, because if you think about it, see, I was about 40 years old then. A lot of people were dead. But the cousins, their cousins' children, I had another cousin, her grandmother on the other side came up from Washington. It was tons of them, aunts and uncles. That kind of support. When I finished law school, they came to Boston. When I finished Spelman, they came to Spelman. It's just people showing up. I don't know what they were trying to do. They just were happy you graduated, but that, do you know what that makes you feel like on the inside?
Yeah, I can imagine.
When I finished Spelman, now my grandmothers, each grandmother sent me pound cakes, which I never thought about every year for my birthday. I never thought about it one way or the other. Guess when I thought about it? After 21, each one, I don't think they talked to each other because they were in two separate cities, but they didn't send them anymore. And that's what I thought about, how much that meant to me, that you just pound cakes just show up on your birthday. It was none of this, oh, was your birthday? Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. I never experienced that. I never had a father who, oh, I was supposed to come get you. I never had a mother who, I never experienced that.
Wow.
So I never experienced that. I never experienced that. And I think I had mentioned that one day in court too. Quit breaking dates with your kids unless if it's something they understand that you had absolutely no choice. Yes, kids get that. But short of that, no, they don't get it. So that tears into their soul, right? Because you weren't worth it. So again, I say I do not feel it's money. Slightly. I mean, it's better not to be hungry, but I do not feel that's the main ingredient to children being self-sufficient or self-contained or able to withstand. For me, it would be able to withstand all that pressure. And I'm trying to tell you, I had pressure. There was a guy in my law school. His father was the first Black in, I think it was Maine, to be in the state house. And he was a lawyer too. Now that guy, they called it punch. He punched his first year. That means he flunked his first year. Now the school lets him, Boston College, take the year over. We're in the torts exam. It's 11 a.m. I'll never forget it. The door opens. He walks in at 11 a.m. And I looked up at him. I was like, dude, I know it's a lot of pressure, but you should have finished this. You should have gotten this degree and then dealt with the pressure later. He didn't make it. So I never heard from him again, but the pressure can be horrific. Then once I got the degree, I was at Wayne State. I passed in the summer. But everybody, Anthony, think about this. They're saying the only reason you passed was because of your mama this, your mama that. Geraldine Bledsoe Ford got you this. That's hard to live with also.
I can't imagine.
But it happened. So I left and went to Boston College. Well, at least I knew it was my own law degree. So I came. When you come back, oh, you only got that job because of your mama. You only this because your mama. Now dig. At some point, I become a trial lawyer. I'm doing trials. I'm starting to win. I remember it was Lori, I've forgotten her last name, but Lori asked me, she said, did your mother tell you what to say on that closing argument? I said, my mother didn't even know I was doing the trial. So I'm trying to give you very detailed examples of how long it took for me to be somebody in my own right.
Yeah.
But probably forever. Maybe it's not even over, but it took decades, not years, decades. And you have to have a strong constitution to withstand all that and still feel that you are somebody, right?
Yeah.
Somebody.
Yeah. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure. That's amazing. Let me ask you this, and this I guess is kind of my closing question. Are you lucky or blessed or both?
That's an excellent question. So I've had time to think of all this by now. Yes, blessed. It's easier. If you have the intestinal fortitude to withstand it, yes, it's easier. It's much easier too, I think. But it is easier because what you could do is you're almost like a household name. So you have all these people that know who you are willing because my grandparents, my mother too, actually, and my father. See, he did stuff with sports to help people.
Right.
So you got this whole world of people that want to, for the most part, help you or will benefit you. Information, examples, just how you receive knowledge, access. I guess the word is access. So yes, in that regard, is extremely helpful. Knowing the shorter pathway to this or that, or knowing the right person to ask for this or that. So yes, in that regard, I think it was very, very has turned out to be very helpful. Just being respected. That's good. It
Yeah.
feels good to
Yeah.
to be for someone to hear your name and go basically, oh my God, are you for real? Let me tell you what your mama did for me. I didn't heard that. Oh, say I was campaigning. When I was campaigning the first time, I told somebody my name, and then so oh, your mama got me my child support. Your mama did this. Your mama gave my husband a break. Your mom, oh, the guy himself. Oh, your mama sent me to jail, but she was right because I wasn't shit. Or your mama, she told me this, that, and the other, but she was right, and I listened to her. I ain't been in trouble again. Just it happens so much. I would say thousands, not hundreds of times. Or my father. Oh, I knew who your father was. We were all proud of him. He was the only one in the NFL of the whole time I was growing up. Or one guy, he found out who my father was. He said, "That's your father? We used to pretend we were him when we was playing touch football." I mean, it's endless. And then I left out my Uncle Bill. You know, my mother's brother was a lawyer and a judge. I left him out, William Bledsoe. So, and he did the same. He treated people right. He treated them good in Highland Park. And those people helped me too. Mother's first cousin, Ivy Bledsoe, he came to Detroit. His father was my grandfather's brother, delivered many babies in Detroit. Same thing. Yes, so that stuff helped me. Yes. Yes. And then
Wow.
their advice, my Uncle Claude and Aunt Anita in DC, their advice, they were trying to help me and they did. they,
Wow.
that's what I would say. And I tried to pass it to my daughter. She's in law school now at Santa Clara University in California. She's
Yeah.
third year in the fall, and I've tried hard to pass it to
Yeah.
her.
Wow. Amazing. Everybody, this is what we do with strong inspirations. I find these people when she was right next to me one time. Listen to this, everybody, on the dance floor.
Yeah.
I'd heard of her. She's good. She's smooth. She know them steps and everything. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, ain't that the lady that's the judge? She's stepping all over the place. Smooth at it.
So I,
And
I
then,
try.
and somehow I got a chance to ask her and tell her about the show. She even a couple times asked me when we gonna do it.
I'm so glad I got a chance to do
I'm
it.
so glad you did too.
And then people did ask on that dancing thing, the dancing judge, like, how can you do that? How can you be a judge? How can you be? Folks, I had a daddy that's in the Hall of Fame and a mama that's in the Hall of Fame actually for what she did. Hers was for law and his was for sports. So I'm that person. When I dance, I'm both. I'm both of them, right?
Yeah,
So when I tell people that it makes more sense, it makes more sense. So it was
yeah,
a and I try to help people too. All the time I was on the bench, I tried my best to
yeah,
help with advice and creative solutions to their problems and listening to them as to why they did what they did and help them maybe get a better deal or some sort of fairness in the situation.
Yeah, sure. Strong inspirations. When we give it to you straight, no chaser, to intoxicate you, not DUI. I got a judge in front of me, not DUI, but to where you stagger by hearing the stories that they tell. This is what we do here.
And
Anthony,
so,
go ahead.
On your thing about the money, let's get to the money. I've tried to tell my daughter every mistake I made about the money, how I handle money, the good and the bad. It wasn't all bad. About her great grandfather, her grandfather, and I tell her right now. You want to know what I'm telling her right now? She gets a family allowance. She's also working, and she was bartending. I told her to save at least $300 a month and put it into a stock fund, no matter what, for the rest of her life, and to up it as her salary increased. But to start right now, while she's a student, at $300 a month, so she has something to show for herself.
Strong inspirations, everybody. You got an icon from an iconic family on the show with me today. Everybody go to my website, businessintheblack.net. You know, every 10th book I sell, I send one to a school.
Oh, nice.
I'm doing what I can, everybody, and I got to do more. I know I got to, and I think about it at night. What more can I do? So that's my quest, everybody, because it does come back to you. God does watch this.
It does.
It comes back. What her family did and the hurt that they probably took for doing it when they did it. And the people they did it for probably did not even appreciate it. Said something mean and nasty to them for whatever reason. I'm sure that happened.
It did.
And you do it anyway because you're on the side of right. So everybody, again, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on this. There is no love button. Hit the notification bell for when the videos come out. You get a ding, shock, and all them other things. Tell somebody about strong inspirations. And to you, my sister, I say this and I mean this with all sincerity. I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. I love who you are in your own right as you two-step on the dance floor. So eloquently, gracefully, professionally, expertly, you got all that. Thank you so very much for being on the show.
I'm getting ready to send you my latest dance video right now.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.